Our guide seemed rather worried about that.
He nods and says, well, if he's one of the local children, then he should be. People have been disappearing from that village, you know.
Said something about sacrificing cats, and then something he didn't want, sacrificing some other things he did not want to talk about. Also, that roll was to see if I could think of anything I've heard from Norskins that sounded similar.
No. Yeah, even if you had rolled with an amazing, no. He sort of strokes his chin thoughtfully, and says, well, that wouldn't surprise me. Ever since the Silverwood Company arrived, I will admit there have been some unfortunate accidents over in Hagerdorf. People have been disappearing. He sort of clears his throat and says, that being said, that could just be the fact that there are, of course, goblins and beastmen in these woods. But it is very... These people that vanish tend to be the people who think themselves the most safe. They're secured in their homes, and there's no sign of anybody breaking in. Their doors aren't even unlocked. It's just, I've investigated one of the scenes myself, of course, and it's just, they just vanish. It's like...
Drac turns and looks at the two wizards in the party.
I will glare at Drac.
Verstat will shrug and say, I'm not sure. Never heard of such a thing.
So what you're saying is to not leave your door locked and be unsafe and you'll be fine.
No, I would actually say the opposite would probably still be the best decision, statistically speaking. I could pull out one of my devices here and show you the calculations if you'd like. The odds of being abducted by whatever mysterious force this is compared to, say, a drunken soldier entering your camp and strangling you are very favorable towards locking your door.
What's statistics?
Out of character, I love Anders.
He looks at the halfling and he says, think of it this way, my dear fellow. It is better to close the pantry with all the food and keep it separated, even though by closing it you might not be aware if some of the food gets infested, as opposed to leaving it all open and guaranteeing it gets infested with vermin.
But wouldn't it be better to be inside the pantry with it closed so you could see the vermin and keep them out?
He puts his hands together and he says, well, you have to leave the pantry to cook the food at some point, do you not?
If you're unimaginative, yes. That just means you need a bigger pantry.
You just need a bigger pantry.
He chuckles and leans back in his chair and he says, that being said, that's not much of a lead as far as getting something that'll get you paid, which I'm sure is what you care about. So I will tell you one thing I've heard. I've heard that not far from here, up one of the steeps, there is a cavern that contains a lost shrine to Tall. And I would be very, very interested in excavating it. Unfortunately, I have managed to send out a few other enterprising individuals. Granted, they went alone, which is not advised, despite my warnings, and none of them have come back.
I see.
So you just want to know where this cavern is?
Well, only if there's a shrine in it, so you would need to, of course, investigate the cave.
But we don't have to do any of that archaeology.
No. Don't try not to touch any of it, just ascertain it's there.
As long as you pay well, I think that's fair enough. We can find this cavern.
It's a bonus.
He nods and says, well, I pay in knowledge and coin, so as long as one of those two things interests you, then I think we can come to an arrangement.
I will look to the others and say, well, if that is all, perhaps we might investigate it for you. I don't see anyone else snapping at our heels to try and give us something to do.
He claps his hands and says, "Wonderful, wonderful. In that event, do be careful. I would not be surprised if Otto has sent out a technical mission through Roll for You Lot, knowing him by now. But that being said, we're never in a rush here in Hagerdorf. We simply do things as we can."
I guess I will stand up and say thank you for inviting us into your tent.
Indeed. Thank you, Lord Anders.
He smiles and nods, and he says, "Yes, yes. Have a nice day."
I will leave the
Risk
tent.
will look around longingly for some kind of hors d'oeuvre tray before sighing and heading out.
You hear a psst behind you. As you look, he reaches below his desk and pulls out a really interesting looking glazed pastry, and he tosses it at you in a way that only old people can.
I will catch the pastry with halfling skill and give him a big grin.
He'll smirk, and you notice that although he's smiling, Sasha is vaguely in your periphery, and she is just scowling at you.
I try to keep the pie out of her, or the pastry out of her sight as I leave the tent.
She doesn't make any attempt to stop you. She just seems to hate your existence.
That's fine. That's my average day.
All right, you leave the tent, and you notice that the camp is up and bustling again, but y'all can kind of do whatever. I only ask for that for my sanity. You try and do it together. Wrist, you eat the pastry, and it is a delicious honey glazed strawberry filled puff of some kind.
Wow.
So, how soon do we think we can get up into the hills and back?
Well, I'm ready to start anytime. Really depends if there's a shrine there or not. What do you say we leave?
I should note the Hager Crypts are a big mountain range. Like, they're not colossal, but they are very big.
Didn't he indicate this was like some place close?
He said it was close, but he didn't say anything else.
Okay.
You might have to, like, search for information.
Gotcha.
Or you could just wing it. That's fine, too.
I mean, as a player, I'm down for winging it. That always leads to hilarity.
I will look to Verstadt and say, anything that gives me an excuse not to be with that Lord Raymond, I will happily take up.
Oh, there's another lord. Do you think he has this pastries as delicious as that one?
He would probably skewer you first.
There's almost a whisper on.
Wrist.
There's almost a whisper on the wind where you almost hear the wind saying, "It's Sir."
Verstadt will say, well, how about we go back inside camp, ask around a bit for this shrine of Tal, see if anyone's heard of it or goes to it, and then if we've collected any information, we can go to it.
I will say I will go do some research on it in Silverhand's tower, since I have access to his library. Well, limited.
Ask Lord Anders if he knows, if he remembers anything useful, or has anything in his library that is useful. Because, like, you mentioned he had books and shit, right?
He does. Yes, he has many books.
Yeah.
One would argue that most of his tent was comprised of books.
Huh,
I'm
yes,
already
yes, go on,
formulating a
go
backup
read.
character that's basically an archaeologist just because I never get an excuse to do that in Warhammer.
All right.
Hertzstadt, if you're not headed off to go visit a library, go around the camp with me and see if anyone knows about caves or where the buggers went up there and went.
Alright, let's do that.
All right. So in that case, Drac, you will need to. You're able to get back to. You can head back in, no problem. You will need to roll a. He kind of starts telling stories. Like, he stays vaguely on topic, but most of the information he gives you about what he's looking for or about where the cave might be, he spends so much time focusing on the whys and the histories and the...
Drac doesn't care. He's interested in all of this shit.
Yeah, so basically, you're able to talk to Anders for like a good while, but he does not have any useful information in regards to where it is.
Okay.
He can answer pretty much every other question.
What might be in it?
The concern that he expresses is that because it is an older shrine and it's up in kind of a wild mountain realm to the god of the wilds, that perhaps either the shrine has become the home for something, or perhaps it has been like booby-trapped or disguised or otherwise protected by cultists who don't want Sigmarites coming around smashing up all their shit, which Sigmarites will totally do.
Drac will ask as to like what kind of things these human cults tended to build their shrines out of, since he does have trade architect, and like, is it made out of wood? Like, is it something inset into the stone of the cave?
He estimates that because it's a shrine to Tal, it is most likely built out of some either animal parts of some kind, whether that be bone or flesh or some bizarre leathers or what have you, or it's going to be made out of natural materials like stone or wood or something like that. But it could literally be anything because he has no idea how old it is.
Yeah, so basically, like, my plan is Drac is not necessarily going to ask him for something. He's going to bounce ideas off of him to see how, like, to narrow down what he has to look for. Like, so if it's more likely to be made out of natural materials, it's more likely to just be in a natural cave as opposed to, like, something created.
He seems to... He with that topic of discussion, he leans very, very heavily towards natural as opposed to artificially created. That being said, you do only get about 45 minutes of conversation with him before Sasha finally lays a hand on his shoulder, and he kind of like stops mid-sentence and looks at her, and then he looks back at you and he gets this really like apologetic look on his face and basically says, "All right, I got to do other stuff now."
Yeah, figured. And then Drac will leave, having gotten the information he wanted.
All right, Verv, you enter into Lord Otto's tower, and once again the doors open before you even get close enough to knock on them. But you don't see anyone inside. It's just his library.
Real quick, I think we both have second sight now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so when you enter his library, it basically, to your second sight, which for anyone watching is like a perception of the winds of magic and otherworldly things, in addition to seeing the natural world through many senses, not just sight. But the moment you enter, the place, it's almost like walking on the surface of the sun, but instead of just light, it's golden light. Like the whole place is drenched in the wind of Chaman. It's almost painful to look at. And the whole room smells of it reeks of an odor of metal and forges and everything you associate with. You smell like bizarre chemicals, and this place has so much magic concentrated into it that it's really bizarre. Especially that when you're outside, you can't notice any of it. It's like it's almost like it's a pocket dimension of just pure magic to an extent.
I will look around and blink a couple times. But one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to one of the silver golems, and I'm just going to flick it and see if anything happens to it, or if it like moves, or if it summons anyone, or whatever.
Roll an endurance check, because I have done what you're about to do in real life.
Yeah, that hurts.
And it's challenging, or it's challenging, so it's plus nothing. All right, you managed to flick it without basically like thumping the shit out of yourself or tearing a nail. But in any case, you flick it, and there's a very nicely ringed tune that goes off it, though it is, but it doesn't seem to move at all, and nothing happens.
I will nod to myself and begin to peruse his library for anything on caves or nearby shrines or local legends, anything of that sort.
All right, roll a hard perception check, and you do get your acute sense bonus for vision.
Okay, hard is what again?
Minus 20?
But plus 10 from your acute vision, so minus 10?
No, I only get my acute vision if I succeed.
I thought it was plus 10 and then an additional success level if you succeed.
No, so acute vision is you get to notice imperceptible things on a successful test, and the test bonus is vision stuff. Gets plus 1 success level.
No.
Okay, you do not find any helpful literature.
Well, I'll hang out here and continue. I guess we can move on to someone else.
Okay.
Around what time is it in the camp?
It's probably about 9 a.m. by this point. Pretty much everyone is to work, whether they're training or running messages. You see a lot of people heading out in large parties and just heading out into the forest to do God knows what. Many of them are carrying lumber axes. Some of them are taking just regular weapons with them. You see people shouting orders, all sorts of other crazy stuff.
Is anyone just like sitting around eating, like breakfast or anything like
Yeah,
that?
there's people sitting around doing stuff.
So I will motion to Wrist and say, how about we go gossip over there and see if we can find anyone who knows about this shrine.
Alright, I guess, and breakfast would do me good.
Exactly. How good are you at gossiping, by the way? You halflings, I don't really know.
Well, that's a bit stereotypical, but I happen to be good at talking to people, if that's what you mean.
You're right, I'm sorry. Shouldn't let myself do that.
It's not like it's a skill I tried to cultivate, it's just something I can do. How are you lads doing? Have you noticed any perceptible difference in quality, say, since last night in the food? As I sit down and serve myself more food.
Okay.
So I will assist him in the gossip check. What's your gossip thing, Ben?
Mine's 55.
I will assist him.
Most of the soldiers, many of them with hangovers, just sort of like mutter into their food. There are a few who enthusiastically agree that last night's dinner was spectacular. But this morning's breakfast is definitely less inspired.
Well, I did have to leave before I could help out, so maybe that's what it was. But it's nice to meet you all. I'm Riss. I'm going to be an assistant cook here with Mabel. I'm the one who doesn't talk.
One of them kind of gives you a blurry look and he says, "Thumblefoot?"
Ah, yes, I'm Wrist Funklefoot.
No. The other one's named Thumblefoot.
Oh, really? It's one of my cousins. How great. I'll have to catch up with him sometime.
He looks perplexed, but doesn't say anything.
Verstat will mumble cousins, but won't say anything else.
I heard that there were a few people who took jobs from Anders and didn't come back from their wandering out alone in the mountains. Was what direction they went, so I made sure I didn't end up going that way by accident.
Roll a average. Oh, okay. The way you worded it. Okay, yeah. Roll an average success check. You'll need at least 2 success levels.
So average gossip.
Yes. All right. Yeah. The table quiet gets a lot quieter for a moment, and everyone kind of looks nervously at each other. And one of the more sober ones leans forward and he says, "Well, you're right about that. You don't go north. If you do have to go north, you'll notice there's a small dip in a valley that leads up to a winding, it's not a staircase, but a winding road. Don't follow the road. Nobody who's gone up that road's come back."
Well, that sounds right ominous, it does.
He nods and says, "Anders been sending all those fools out on suicide missions. Me and the lads think he sends that she-bitch of his to go gather up all the coin off their corpses."
But he need it with how he's swanking around in that fancy tent.
Another man leans forward and says, "I hear it's 'cause that's how the two of them, stay intimate."
Oh, well, you can't help how you're made, but that's a little weird.
Most
I don't think my aunt ever mentioned to trying anything out like that, but that sounds like something that the witch hunters would get awful peeved about.
one of them at the end goes, "Shut up, Ford. Nobody believes that." And he grumbles about it being true into his morning meal, but doesn't say anything else.
Well, that would make him a spry for that old of man. I will go into blanks about how impressive that is. She is a feisty young woman.
Most of the soldiers seem to lose their appetite or get irritated and move away, but some of them seem a little too interested.
Verstat will nudge Wrist and say, "Come on, it's time we get going, I think."
But, all right. Let's go. Can we at least grab a cookbook before we head out? Not to the direction of north, please.
Of course.
All right. The 4 of you are definitely going to want to eat before you head out, and you're probably going to want to shop. But we're going to do the shopping aspect for anything y'all want to buy before you head out, if this is what y'all want to do. There are other options, but if this is what you want to do, that's fine. And after we pick up items, we're going to go ahead and call it for today.
Okay. I'm down to go looking for a shrine. What about you guys?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Colt just doesn't want to go with the Bretonian, so he's fine.
I am all fine for not going up.
You don't like Sir Perquin, but I've spent hours on him. Cold, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
It kind of says something about you that you enjoyed creating you spent hours creating an NPC you knew would torment us.
Oh, dude, I gotta tell y'all about his creation process after I turn this off. It's a funny story, actually. Anyway, okay, so the 4 of you eat breakfast, so we don't need to worry about that for next time. And so the way that the shop essentially works here is that you can buy most anything that's common. It's cheaper if you wait to go to Jettenberg to do it, but that also requires you to go to Jettenberg. But you cannot buy anything that's not common here.
Alright.
It has to be literally like some of the most plentiful shit in existence.
Yeah.
Including weapons?
Yeah, you can buy weapons here.
Okay. I was just wondering because like a lot of weapons are not listed as common because they're not something normal people will just randomly buy.
That being said, if they're listed as common, then yes, they sell them here because this is a war camp and they do expect visitors.
All right.
That being said, I do reserve the executive right to make exceptions if there's something that catches me off guard.
Drac would like to try and pick up a normal shield and would trade in his buckler for it.
Okay, you want to barter the buckler?
Yeah.
All right. So off in their starting bid with you, they're willing to offer. Sorry, I need my calculator. 1 second.
The buckler is worth half the price of the shield.
I see that. But
how many silvers is there to a gold?
There's 20 silver to a gold.
Oh, then I actually don't think I have enough money, so I will not do that.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, because I have 12 shillings, and that is not. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they're gonna getting like even half the value of the buckler is gonna require some effort.
Yeah, and I cannot haggle because I am a dwarf. Actually, I'd probably be better off intimidating them, but that would probably go badly.
I don't know if I'd recommend intimidating a shop in a camp full of soldiers. But anyway, anyone else?
I mean, it depends on how
yes,
much it pissed off the soldiers.
Rist wants to get a cooking pot. And some rags.
Okay. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Here we are. Rags. Rags you can get easy here. They cost 1 brass each.
Alright. Can I find a cook pot?
Yes. Cooking pot. They do sell cooking.
I'm not looking for a big one.
Kind of like.
Because it would fit too much over my head.
Oh, okay. So you want like a normal sized one. Okay. Yes, they offer to sell it to you for 10 silver.
10 silver, even all the way out here. Wow. I don't know if I could do that. How many people need cooking pots out here to buy them? I know we use them in the kitchen. I want to haggle that down a bit.
Okay. You will get a bonus for what you said. I'm keeping it to myself though.
All right.
Oh, okay. They are heavily moved by your argument and feel shamed that they even considered rudely insinuating that a halfling should pay so much.
All the good lads you are, I'm sure the next time we're making up something sweet, I'll make sure to save a portion for you to make sure you get some before the rush happens and all that.
Give me 1 sec. Oh, right. Haggling. No, that's talents. I want skills. There we go. Language, so I need to go backward. Haggle. Oh, it's an opposed check. 1 second. Where are my dice? They're there. We got a 98. Oh, man. Let's see. Refer to the consumer's guide. Haggling. Money, money, money. Clipping, counterfeiting. Tracking money. Bargaining. Okay, haggle. Yeah. Winning a haggle tech reduces the price by... Okay. Okay, they agree... They agree to sell it to you for 8 shillings instead.
I will accept this magnanimous defeat in the contest of haggling. I will ask if they could throw in a few rags. Could you throw in a few rags just on the cheap?
Yes.
They're rags. No one really wants
They
those.
they will agree. They will agree to sell it to you for they'll agree to give it to you for 8 in addition to giving you 10 rags for free.
Ah, you're charmers, you are. And such handsome men you would look like. I bet the ladies are all after you when you're in town. I will say, putting them into my cook pot, smiling and walking away. And I will make it 10 feet before I turn to Vergestad and say, that's how you haggle. You do not yell and shout until you get thrown out of town.
Verstadt will give him an okay sign with his fingers.
Right, I'll roll up the rags, cramp them inside the pot, put it on my head and say, all right, let's go fight some beasties.
Oh man, you're getting a bunch of OUs from all the shopkeeps. All right, anybody else?
Verstadt would buy something if he had any money.
Okay, I'll take that as a no. Cold?
Depending on, considering I don't know how long we'll be out, I want to buy some rations.
You will not require rations.
Okay. Then maybe, how much does a bandage go for?
Bandages, they're pretty high demand in this camp, so they're running for 8 brass.
Nope, I'm not gonna spend money on that.
Okie dokie.
That's all I can. There's nothing really I can buy with the amount of money I have. So.
Well, y'all need to find that shrine then.
Guess so.
All right, everybody good?
I think so.
Yep.
All right, great job. Great session. We'll call it there. Next time we will head up into the Hager Crypts proper.
Cool.
Experience for this session. See, last time I gave a bunch, but that was also the first session, so there was a little extra thrown in. I'm gonna say 75 for this session. 75 EXP.
All right.
You know what? Make it an even 100. 2 hours. I think 100's fair.
All right.
Oh, okay.
We're 6 hours into this campaign. I don't need to be a fucking miser with the experience points.
I mean, after we die, we come back at half XP anyways.
That's true. And I trust me, I will be trying to kill you. All right.
All right, guys, I'm taking the Scleros. Let's try and let's see who kills me first, Sotek or myself.
I would, because I would just have you declared rib and mad and shoot you. Firing squad. All right, that's gonna be it. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you for next session. Bye.